You hit send. And then, the waiting begins. You stare at the screen, watching the little typing bubble appear, disappear, and appear again. Your chest tightens. Your breath grows shallow. You told yourself you were just being honest. You told yourself that if you just explained exactly how you felt, if you just laid all your cards on the table and said whatever was on your mind, they would finally understand. You thought your vulnerability would bridge the gap. You thought your raw, unfiltered truth would pull them closer. But it didn't. Instead, the typing bubble vanished. The screen went dark. And now, you are sitting in the heavy, suffocating silence of their withdrawal. You feel the cold wall sliding up between you. You feel the sudden, terrifying distance. And the worst part is the creeping realization that your attempt to create intimacy is exactly what just pushed them away. It is time to face a brutal, uncomfortable truth. The advice you have been given, the cultural mantra that tells you to just say whatever you think, to communicate your feelings endlessly, to never hold back. This is destroying your relationship with an avoidant. You have been taught that over-communicating is the hallmark of a healthy connection, but in the context of an avoidant attachment dynamic, your relentless honesty is not intimacy. It is emotional flooding. You are not communicating. You are dumping. You are taking the chaotic, unregulated anxiety inside your own nervous system and pouring it directly into their lap, expecting them to sort it out, to soothe it, to validate it. You call it authenticity, but deep down, you know it is a trauma response. You are trying to force them to regulate your fear of abandonment. You are demanding clarity because you cannot tolerate the ambiguity of the space between you. And to an avoidant, this relentless demand for emotional processing does not feel like love. It feels like an ambush. To understand why your words are building walls, you have to look beneath the surface of their behavior. You have to look at the biology of their retreat. When you send that long, heavy paragraph, when you corner them with your intense emotional demands, you are not just having a conversation. You are triggering a primal survival mechanism. Deep in their brain, the amygdala perceives your emotional intensity as a threat. It sounds a silent, blaring alarm. Instantly, their body is flooded with cortisol and adrenaline. Their prefrontal cortex, the logical, empathetic, connecting part of the brain, goes completely offline. They are no longer looking at the person they love. Their nervous system has shifted into a state of hyper-arousal, and then, inevitably, into a freeze response. They are emotionally suffocating. The pressure to respond, to fix your feelings, to meet the intense demands of your emotional world is too heavy for their nervous system to carry. So, they shut down. They detach. They pull away not because they are cruel, but because their biology is screaming at them to escape the pressure. This is the reframe you desperately need to internalize. They did not stop caring. The love did not suddenly evaporate. The connection did not break. They simply felt overwhelmed by the sheer weight of the emotional demand. They retreated to breathe. They pulled away to survive the intensity of the moment. When you understand this, the narrative shifts. They are not a villain punishing you with silence. They are a drowning person gasping for air. And every time you chase them with more words, more explanations, and more demands for a response, you are handing them an anchor. So, how do you save the relationship? How do you stop the cycle of push and pull, of pursuit and retreat? You must master the most difficult, counterintuitive, and profoundly powerful tool in human psychology. You must embrace the architecture of silence. I am not talking about the punitive silent treatment. I am not talking about manipulating them by ignoring them to make them feel guilty. That is toxic, and it will only confirm their deepest fears about relationships. I am talking about strategic silence. I am talking about the profound, grounded power of non-reactivity. I am talking about holding your words, containing your energy, and letting the empty space do the heavy lifting. When you practice strategic silence, you stop over-explaining. You stop defending your worth. You stop trying to convince them of your feelings. You take the energy you have been pouring into their lap and you pull it back into your own center. You become a fortress of calm. You observe their withdrawal without absorbing it. You feel the urge to send the text, to demand the closure, to fix the tension, and you choose to do absolutely nothing. You let the silence sit. You let the space expand. This is where the magic happens. This is where the dynamic begins to shift. Imagine their internal world right now. When an avoidant pulls away, they have a script in their head for what you will do next. They expect the follow-up text. They expect the apology. They expect the angry demand for an explanation. They brace themselves for the emotional storm. They wait for you to knock on the door of their isolation. But this time, you don't knock. You go quiet. You go about your day. You regulate your own nervous system. You let the silence stretch. At first, they feel relief. The pressure is off. They can breathe. But as the hours turn into a day, and the day turns into two, the relief begins to morph into something else. Confusion. They check their phone. No messages. They look at your social media. You are not posting sad quotes. You are not seeking attention. You are simply living. The absence of your expected reaction creates a psychological void, and the human brain hates a void. When you stop chasing, you remove the resistance that allows them to keep running. Without your anxiety pushing against them, they suddenly lose their footing. They start to wonder why you aren't fighting for them. They start to wonder if they pushed you too far. They start to wonder if you have moved on. This is the moment the power dynamic begins to flip. The avoidant brain is wired to value independence and resist engulfment, but it is also wired to respond to the sudden loss of supply. When your attention, your validation, and your emotional energy are no longer guaranteed, their dopamine levels drop. The certainty they felt when they knew you would always chase them begins to crack. They start to feel the absence of your warmth. They start to miss the very intensity they were running from just days ago. The phantom vibration in their pocket becomes a source of obsession. They start replaying your last interactions. They start analyzing their own behavior. The narrative in their head shifts from, "They are too much for me," to, "I might be losing them." And then they reach out. It might be a subtle test, a meme, a random question about something trivial, a late-night text that says nothing of substance but means everything in context. They are dipping a toe into the water, checking to see if you are still there, checking to see if you are still angry. This is the critical juncture. This is where most people fail. When they finally reach out, your anxious attachment wants to pounce. You want to unleash all the words you've been holding back. You want to demand to know where they've been. You want to say whatever you think. Do not do it. Maintain your strategic silence. Maintain your non-reactivity. Respond with warmth, but with brevity. Match their energy, but do not exceed it. Be polite, be pleasant, but remain entirely unbothered. Show them that your emotional state is no longer dictated by their presence or their absence. Show them that you are whole, with or without them. When you respond with calm detachment, you shatter their expectations. You prove that you are not the anxious pursuer they thought you were. You prove that you have boundaries. You prove that you respect yourself enough not to beg for scraps of attention. And to an avoidant, self-respect is the most intoxicating, magnetic trait a person can possess. They are drawn to those who do not need them to survive. They are repelled by those who cling to them for dear life. By stepping back, by holding your silence, you become the ultimate prize. But I must give you a warning. This path requires immense psychological fortitude. The urge to break the pattern will be agonizing. Your nervous system will scream at you to fix the tension. Your mind will tell you that if you don't say something, they will forget you. Your fear of abandonment will try to hijack your logic. You will feel the physical ache of the unspoken words burning in your throat. Do not break the silence to relieve your own anxiety. If you break your strategic silence just to check if it is working, you reset the entire cycle. You prove to them that your silence was just a manipulation, a tactic to get a reaction. You prove that you are still regulated by their behavior. You must endure the discomfort. You must sit in the fire of your own unexpressed emotions and let it burn away your need for external validation. You must learn to self-soothe. You must learn to be your own safe harbor. This is not just about saving a relationship with an avoidant. This is about saving yourself. This is about a fundamental identity shift. For too long, you have defined your worth by how much you can love, how much you can give, how much you can endure. You have believed that if you just love hard enough, if you just communicate perfectly, if you just say whatever you think, you can fix them. You can make them stay. You can secure the connection. But true power does not come from forcing someone to love you. True power comes from knowing you are already whole. When you master the art of strategic silence, you are not just managing an avoidant partner, you are reclaiming your own sovereignty. You are taking back the energy you have been leaking into the black hole of their emotional unavailability. You are redirecting that energy into your own growth, your own peace, your own life. You begin to realize that your words are sacred. They are not tools to be thrown at someone in a desperate attempt to be seen. They are reflections of your inner world. And when your inner world is calm, grounded, and secure, your words become sparse, intentional, and powerful. You stop speaking to fill the silence. You start speaking only when it adds value. You transition from the anxious pursuer to the grounded observer. You stop asking, "Do they love me?" And you start asking, "Is this dynamic serving my highest good?" You stop trying to decode their mixed signals, and you start listening to your own intuition. You realize that you do not need to dissect their childhood trauma to justify their poor treatment of you. You realize that you deserve a love that does not require you to shrink your needs or exhaust your voice to maintain it. The avoidant may come back. They may chase you. They may finally realize the value of what they almost lost. And if they do the deep, grueling work to heal their own attachment wounds, you can choose to let them back in. But you will let them in from a place of power, not a place of desperation. You will set the boundaries. You will dictate the pace. You will no longer be at the mercy of their emotional fluctuations. Or you may realize that their capacity for intimacy will never match your needs. And because you have reclaimed your self-worth, because you have learned to sit in the silence and find your own center, you will have the strength to walk away. You will walk away without a final, explosive text. You will walk away without demanding closure. You will walk away in strategic, unbothered silence. Because you finally understand that your peace is more important than their presence. The next time you feel the urge to say whatever you think, the next time your fingers hover over the keyboard to send a paragraph of your pain, stop. Take a deep breath. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel the steady rhythm of your own heartbeat. Put the phone down. Step into the silence. Let the space do the work. Let them feel the weight of your absence.